Hi, my name is Sherlyn, and my senior thesis is over the book Night. And the title of my senior thesis is How Suffering Doesn't Have to Be a Reason for Losing Faith in Humanity and Our Beliefs. So I'm going to start by giving a short summary of the book. It is about Elie Wiesel. He is in his teenage years. He is 15 years old, and he is his own narrator of his book, and he narrates how throughout how his teenage years changed completely by him surviving the Holocaust, and he explains the whole journey throughout what he experienced and how his faith totally completely changed throughout the book. And he says that before he was taken to this concentration camps with his family, he lived a normal life like any normal teenager. He specifically said that he wanted to master in his Kabbalah, which is a Jewish mystical interpretation of the Bible. And he said that he wanted to become closer to God, but he didn't have anybody to help him. So he was in search of a master that would help him master his studies in the Kabbalah, and he finally found a man called Masha the Beetle, which he kind of did help him, but he didn't answer all his answers completely because he still had doubts about how could people get closer to God, and he would always ask Masha the Beetle how could he become closer to God, but his answer was just that there are many different ways that people can become closer to God, and eventually, Elie still had that doubt in himself, and eventually, there was rumors about German soldiers coming into his Jewish towns near him, and people didn't really think it was true that there was German soldiers coming into the Jewish towns. And there was this man. It didn't mention his name, but he warned them before the Jewish people were going to be taken away into concentration camps. They were warned before, but they didn't believe the man. They thought he was crazy. And eventually all those rumors became true, and Elie was taken with his family to the concentration camps. And throughout his journey on the way, his way through the concentration camps, he says that there was a woman that was yelling fire, fire in the night, and everybody thought she was crazy and that she was probably dreaming. But when they got to the concentration camps, Elie saw that there was crematorium pits. There was crematorium pits there, and that there was actual fire, and that the woman, I don't know how in herself, I guess she felt and sensed that there was actual fire. And in the crematorium pits, Elie experienced how German soldiers were burning adults and babies. They were burning them without no reason. And then how he says that completely burned his dreams and it burned his God forever. And that is like the main thing that made him lose faith in people and in God. And he says how could people be so cruel against other humans? And he mentions how people were so cruel to him and the other Jews that were with him. And he also says that evil was taking place in the book too. There were starved to death, and he says that he suffered through so much trauma that he went through, but he said that he didn't let that get through him, and that prayer was the only thing that would help him get through all the struggles he went through. And during the day, they would do labor work, so didn't really have time to pray during the day, so he would just pray at night. And that's mainly the title of the book. That's why it's called Night, because the only time he would talk to God would be during the night, because he didn't have time. And he also says that throughout the book, he said in one chapter of the book, he says that his father was slapped in the face, and he says that he kind of felt this anger and bitterness inside him, but he didn't let that get to him, and I guess the anger and bitterness wanted to overcome him, but he didn't let that get to him. And he also mentions how eventually his family passed away. His father passed away, and he was the only one that survived. And towards the end of the book, he says that even though he, all the things he went through, they'll always stay inside him. He's never gonna forget about it. But he said that he had no regret and that he had no trace of revenge towards those person or all of those people that hurt him and other Jews. So he said that he had no revenge towards all of them, and that we can learn how people will hurt us in life, and they'll hurt us emotionally or by any other way. And you may not be hurt right now, but somebody will eventually hurt you. And it'll be really hard to forgive that person, but Elie, we can learn that Elie, even though all the stuff he went through, he didn't have like that, he didn't really want to, he didn't let that anger, that bitterness get to him, and he was able to forgive all those people that hurt him. And he also said that if you become angry towards a person and you let that bitterness overcome you, that's not going to help you, because you can just hate that person, but it's not going to help you. It's just going to make you feel worse inside of you. And he said that eventually he was able to forgive those people, and that we should be a forgiveful person towards the people that will hurt us, or eventually will hurt us. And he also says that I also learned from the book that we shouldn't become a hateful person, because bitterness doesn't really, nothing good comes out of bitterness and hatefulness. It'll just make us feel worse. And he also mentions that the pain and suffering he was going through, that eventually it will help us get through our struggles. Because if there weren't suffering in our lives, we would be having and be living a happy life, and we wouldn't go through suffering, and we would just be happy. We would just be having the happy life and wouldn't be able to experience suffering. So the suffering is a part of life, and without suffering, we wouldn't be able to forgive people and actually be happy, because everything would be rainbows and happiness. But he also says that at the end of the book, he went home. He was finally freed from those horrible concentration camps, all the hardships he went through. And he says when he finally went home, he got home, and he had no trace of revenge, as I mentioned. And he also said that eventually he was able to overcome the struggles, even though he was at that point that he was giving up on God and believing in other people, but he didn't let that get to him. And we should learn from him that he was about to give up on his beliefs and other people, but he ended up staying strong, and his prayer was that kept him going. And eventually we will get through this together, and there's going to be struggles in life, and we may think they're going to last forever, but eventually it will come to an end, and eventually we will get through these struggles together. And and then also he says that there was a lot of evil in the book too. And he also mentions how people can never change people will never change the evil in the world, but we can change the effects of it, and we can change our attitude towards others, and we should become a better person towards others and be kind, and to not be like those people that hurt him and other dudes. And then we should learn to love each other and forgive each other. Like Elie at the end, he became a really forgetful person. And yes, thank you.
Can I ask a question first? After reading the book, do you agree? Like, is this something that you would live by? That if somebody hurt you, that you could forgive them?
Yeah,
what was your feeling after reading the book? And as you went through
I kind
the
of felt
process?
guilty. I was like, sometimes someone does something to me, and I'm like, you see that person, you're like, I don't like them. And like, you don't say it directly to them. They're like, you're just saying inside, you're like, I hate you. Like,
So you
talk to me.
Feel that
you feel
boiled
that,
up inside
yes.
you. So
And
you think you have a good understanding of what they were talking about in the book?
I felt kind of guilty after reading it. I was like, oh no, I'm not supposed to be that kind of person.
Okay. Anybody else have a question for Sherlyn?
Yes, I have a question. After the Holocaust, for many of the victims, they became atheistic and lost faith. A lot of the Jewish people still practice their traditions, but couldn't look at God the same. Understandably, they've seen these horrors. How can these people maintain faith? How do you regain faith in the face of catastrophe?
I think through the prayers, since Elie, he almost got to that point that he was like, is God actually here? He started questioning himself. He's like, where is God? Like, where's his justice? But he did start to feel that, he started to feel that doubt in himself. But towards the end, his prayer, he still kept on praying. So I feel like his prayer is what kept him going and was the purpose of and it was the answer to his doubtfulness. And I feel like his prayer is what kept him going and was the answer for him not to give up on people and his beliefs.
Any more questions?
Mm-hmm. Okay. What would you say was the most powerful passage in the book for you?
For me, it was the first night he went to the first day he got to the concentration camp is when he said that it's like, I'll never forget the night that burned never shall I forget those moments that murdered my God and my soul and that turned my dreams to ashes. It's when he first realized that where's God, or he realized why do people do such cruel things to others, and he realized why are people like this, and he it's like when the doubt started to get to him, but eventually he overcame that with his prayer, and that's what I like about it. It's like the main point of the book is how he at that moment where he realized, I don't feel the same anymore, or my faith's not the same anymore, but eventually he did overcome it with his prayer.
I have a question. So when he's out of concentration camp, does he felt the happiness, or what he keep it alive after that? What his life is?
Before the concentration camp?
No, after.
Oh, his feelings. So I guess after he was freed, I guess he did lose he didn't lose his faith because he still kept on praying. So he didn't completely lose his faith because he still kept on praying. So that's what kept him going. So I guess he still didn't lose his faith. So he still was he still believed that eventually he did get through the Holocaust. So he did have faith in himself because he was able to survive. So I guess that's what kept him going, that he was able to overcome it with his prayers. And that eventually, yes, he did. And then after that, he did become a well-known author after that. after the Holocaust, he went and studied, and he became a well-known author. So yes.
I have one more. Are you interested in learning more about the Holocaust after?
Yes, after I read this book, and it was really sad at the beginning because I would see how cruel they were towards all the Jews, and it kind of like made me angry in some parts because I was like, how could people be so cruel towards all those Jewish people? Yeah, so I don't know. I'm thinking of going a little bit more in research about it.
Okay, good. We have a great museum in Dallas, the Holocaust Museum. So, good.
So I had one more question. As you were reading the book, and in like his darkest hour where he started losing his faith, if you had been there with him, what do you think you could have said to him that would have helped him regain his faith?
If I would have been there with him, I would have told him that I should have told him if I was there, I would tell him to like keep on going. That I would probably like if we were in this time era, I'd be like, oh, there's like in this time era, it's really hard to keep on having your faith stable. Nowadays it's really hard because from all the stuff that's going on, I would tell him, oh, I'm going through some tough times too, and it's really hard to keep your faith going. And seeing other like all the stuff that's going around, it's really hard to keep your faith going. And I would just tell him to keep on going, and eventually that his pain will go away and that everything will be all right, even though there's bad stuff is gonna happen in life, but you just gotta keep on going. And you just gotta have a positive mindset of everything. Yeah.
Good job.
Right, yeah, another class gonna be starting.
Yeah. And I've got to go to class. Thank you for letting us use your
Oh,
brain.
yeah, of course, no problem. Yeah, great job, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Good job. It's still recording.